Hello everyone, welcome to another demo session. In this demo, we will go through the firewalls. So we're gonna create a physical firewall, and we're gonna get two machines, Windows and Windows VM and Linux VM, and then we're gonna put it behind the firewall and do some testing. Okay, let's start. So let's create a resource group first. I'm going to create a resource group in East US. Okay, resource group has been created. Now let's start by creating our first virtual network. We're going to call this one, let's choose resource group first. We're going to call this one Spoke Virtual Network. Spoke Minet, East US. Wait for it to finish. Okay, seems like it's done. I'm just going to wait for a few moments. Okay. So our virtual network is created. Now let's create network security group. Network security group, also called NSG. We have one NSG before, so let's get rid of this one. It's going to be in East US, and we're going to call it Spoke Network Security Group. Okay, we'll wait for it to get created. Okay, that's done. Now we're gonna add an inbound rule where we're gonna allow all the traffic. Since it's a demo, so we will let every traffic to come in just for testing, and gonna call it allow all, and let's just click static, click OK, allow, and let's add. Okay, we're gonna wait for this one to finish. Should not take too long. Okay, the rule is created. Okay, let's go back to our network security virtual network. There is a thing we forget to do is the subnet. We need to associate our network security group to our subnet as well. But first, I forget to add the subnets. We left it as default, but actually we need to change this one, or we even need to change the main subnet as address space. So I'm gonna use, instead of this, let's add 10.1. Yep, we're gonna add this one. Okay, yeah, it's just complaining about the subnet because subnet is not in that same range. So what we will do, delete the subnet. So there is no subnet, and just gonna wait for the subnet to get deleted. The default subnet is just pick up this address based on the what address space we have given. Okay, that's gone. Now let's go to address space. Now you can see we can able to make change. Just mentioning about peers, we haven't got any appear setup yet. So let's hit save. Okay, now let's go to subnet and create a subnet name. I'm gonna call it spoke subnet, and address we're gonna use 24, and rest the setting should be same, and let's hit save. So we created an address, we created a subnet with /24. So we got 251 IP addresses in this. Our address space is 16, 6,536 IP addresses we can use. Okay, now let's go back to our network security group, which we have created earlier, and we need to associate our, so we go in there, look for subnets, and under subnet associate, we need to associate to our subnet, and which is spoke, and that's done. Okay, before going to create the firewall, let's launch two virtual machines in the same subnet. We're gonna keep the public address just in case if we got any problem or we need to test something, we can use it. So first is gonna be Windows VM and ECUS, and it should be Windows 2019. And this one we're gonna call it desktop. Okay, port we will not allow anything. We're gonna use we already defined it our network security group. This is all done, and next in here we need to choose our spoke. We'll keep, as I said, we will keep an public IP address just if we have to do some testing, but we will actually use the private IP address to go into the machines. Okay, so that's all done. Let's hit create. Might gonna take a few seconds, so just gonna mute it for a minute. Okay, it's created now. Let's launch it just to test. Yeah, you will let it run in the background, and let's launch our Linux machine. Same resource group, Linux VM. Anything here? Yep, fine. Okay, our virtual Linux virtual machine is getting built. Once it's done, we're gonna go into firewall, but for that we need to create a virtual network first. So I'm just gonna wait for this one to finish. Yep, that's done. Okay. Now let's go to virtual network. We got Spoke VNet. Now we need to create uh, virtual network for our firewall. We're gonna call it Spoke. We call that one Spoke. Sorry, we're gonna call it Hub VNet, and same region, East US, and in here we're gonna use a different address space. So 192.168.0.0/16, and subnet we gonna call it. Okay, you need to be careful with this name. When we are dealing with a firewall, we need to define the specific name, which is Azure Firewall subnet. Okay, and then you can define your subnet. So our subnet in this case will be 192.168.0.0/24, and let's add this. So always careful with this name. If you don't use this name, it will throw an error. You have to come back and recreate the subnet again and enable the firewall here. Okay, we will disable it for now. We haven't created the firewall yet, so yes, do next, next, and create. Okay, while it's getting created, let's see if our virtual machine is created. Yep, we got two virtual machine. Okay, the resource group is got created, so subnet is there. Okay, now we need to create our firewall. Okay, in this uh, VNet, we will not use a network security group. Okay, now let's go to our firewalls. Let's create a firewall. It's gonna be in the same resource group. We're gonna call it Hub Spoke Firewall, and in East US. Standard. Okay, we are not using manage firewall because we only got one, so we will use classic. Okay, choose use existing, which will be, so our hub need to go in here. Okay, we need to have a public IP address, so we will create a public IP address now. Firewall, and I can call it firewall IP. Click OK, and then next, just create. Okay, it will take few minutes. It can take up to 5 to 6 minutes. So I'm just gonna put you on mute for a minute. Okay, we're still in a process of waiting, getting this deployed. Okay, still in a process of deployment. Okay, so it's done. Now let's go to our resource. Okay, here in our firewall, we need to define rule. Okay, let's click on, before defining rule, we will need the IP address. If I do duplicate and let's see what public IP addresses we got there. And if I do public IP address, yep, let's grab, so for firewall, I'm just gonna make a note of it. We're gonna need this one few times, so for IP, okay, so, and we're gonna need private IP address for these two boxes as well. So this is for Linux. And then let's grab Windows 1. Okay, perfect. So that's all done. Now let's go back to our firewall and create a rule, add a rule. And we're gonna call our rule RDP and SSH rule. Okay, so we're gonna define two rules here. So let's go with RDP. We're gonna say protocol TCP, IP address, source we're gonna allow everything. Okay, now destination should be our firewall IP address where people from the cloud or public internet will come here. And destination port, okay, we are doing RDP. Let's find the RDP port is 3389. Okay, now translated address will be the address of our machine. So there will be Windows machine because we're going to be doing RDP into it. And the translated port will be same 3389, which is our RDP. 3389, 3389, all done. Okay, now we need to add another rule. So let's see if it gives up option. Okay, it's not giving up option. So let's add one by one. So this is RDP rule, and then the next rule will be our SSH rule. Okay, just gonna take a few more minutes, and then we should be done. Keep this on the side. Okay, it's just taking its time. Okay, so our first rule has been created. Now let's create the second rule, and the name we gonna say is, we can create under the same rule here. Yeah, I will add it under the same. Okay, we're gonna call it SSH TCP IP same all source. It's gonna be same 20.84. You're using the same firewall 29.26. Okay, for SSH is 22, and for the machine is at 1.0.5, and then same 22. And let's save this rule. Just gonna wait for it to finish. It's almost there, just waiting for this to finish. Okay, perfect. So our rule has been created, SSH and other one. Now we can able to access it now. So this is the public IP address we use. Now let's try uh, RTP into it and use the public IP address for a firewall. But before doing that, let's quickly forget to mention, we need to create a peer-to-peer as well. So just gonna take us a minute. We're gonna call it hub to hub to spoke, and here we're gonna call it spoke to hub, and we are in hub VNet. Gonna choose spoke and all, and let's add this one. I'm gonna create two uh, peering, one on the hub and one on the spoke. Okay, that's done. Now this is connected. Let's do refresh. Let's go to our other one and refresh. You can see the pairing underneath as well. Okay, now as we said, we're gonna use public IP address to RTP into the machine. Let's click OK. Perfect. So as you can see, we can able to log in using the firewall. Okay, that was the other session which says it is connected. Okay, now let's try SSH as well. So we got PuTTY software. We can use PuTTY software, and we're gonna use the same IP address. And this time we're gonna use port 22, and let's click OK. Okay, seems like it's accepting the connection desktop, and That should be done. Perfect. So that's done. Now, if we want to reach out to internet, we are getting the traffic back as well. So that's all good. What we also need to do is to create a route table as well, so traffic can be forwarded. So if you go on route table, route tables, under the route tables, let's create a route table there. Under the same network, we're gonna use East US as a region, and the resource and the name we're gonna call it hub spoke route table. Okay, let's create. And now go to our settings. So you should have gone in our root table. Let's do refresh. That's interesting. Should have created it. Hmm. Why we can't able to see our root table? Maybe we haven't. Now here we go. Sorry, it just took a minute. And then in here we need to configure the root and add root name. We're gonna call it root test. Prefix, we're gonna use all of the IP addresses /0. Virtual gateway. In next hop, we're gonna use virtual appliance since it's a firewall. Next hop IP address will be our okay. The next hop IP address will be our this should be our spoke one. So which is let's check this one. Nope. Okay, that's all created. Cool. So that's what our demo was. So if you want to create a next hop for the other, uh, which is Linux machine, you can create it similarly. So the whole point was to access those machines behind firewall using the firewall IP address, which we have tested it. And that's pretty much it from this lesson. Thanks for watching this demo. We will come up with another video soon. Thank you. Bye for now.